it's finally time to start working on the cage that will go around this engine. So the purpose of a cage is basically to keep occupants away from everything that's hot and spinning, and ultimately the propeller in the back. My plan is to use stainless steel tubing similar to what I used for the engine stand, and I'm going to bend it and basically just make, well, a cage around this engine. Exactly how I'm going to run the bars, I haven't quite decided. I've thought of a few different iterations, but ultimately what the important part is that it's going to protect this area. I want it to be as least intrusive as possible for at least a little bit of walking space up to at least to about there. And of course, where the prop is in the back, there'll be quite a lot of extensive tubing down there to make sure that the prop is completely isolated so that nothing gets into it. So I'm going to get the tubing bender out and start bending some stainless, and we'll see how it goes together. With that cheap tubing roller, I bent this S-curve in this tubing. That roller, it works really well. I think it was basically less than 5 minutes to bend these two curves. So for this cage, it's going to be a pretty useful tool. This will basically sit here. I'll rig that up better. But first I'm going to weld some flat stock to the ends, and the flat stock will help bolt this to the hull. With the tubing, I'm just marking where I approximately think the bend will be, and I start it and then go test it, and basically just through trial and error get it right, or get it close enough. It's a pretty, the way I'm doing this is not an exact science. I'm just basically just doing it ad lib, seeing how it goes, and there's a lot of room for forgiveness when things aren't exactly right. turn each time I adjust it. And I think we're going to get a pretty big curve on it. So if you get close, I'll take the boat, go check it in, and you can adjust it. Let's do one more second here, and I'll try it. This is the main structure of the cage over the engine. Now for this cage in general, I'm going to build it in two segments. One segment is going to kind of encompass the engine area, and then one will be the prop. And the reason they're going to be separated is because the prop is going to be more, the cover of the prop is going to also be what supports the rudders and the steering mechanism. So that's going to be pretty permanently, well not permanent, but that's going to be pretty solidly fixed to the boat hull. This around the engine, I want it to be easy to remove so that if I have to do any engine work or say swap the motor or basically do anything, even maintenance, that I could take this portion of the cage out. So for here, there's 2 bolt attachment points on each side. At the bottom there, and then on the side. So 4 bolts and all this will come out. There's going to be a 1/8 stainless rod basically filling in a bunch of the gaps, but this is the main structure. It kind of looks like a football helmet. It's kind of a weird shape. You know, if it was completely symmetrical, I think it would look a bit better, but this one's form over function. So the engine isn't symmetrical. I got the turbo on one side. I got you know, basically stuff all over it. So basically I didn't want something symmetrical just for the sake of it. So I'd rather cover the things that need to be covered, obviously the exhaust, things that are going to get hot, things that are spinning. So anyway, this is the start for the motor. After this point, it's going to get too big to fit in the garage. So the airboat's actually going to come out of the garage, and that might be the last time it's in this garage. I'm going to have to start working on it outside, which I'm not thrilled about, but c'est la vie. Well, the airboat has been kicked out of the garage, so it's nice to get it out. It's one step closer to being done. The annoying part is having to tarp it. We did have rain yesterday, but it's a beautiful, warm, sunny day today. Working on it outside is not my favorite thing, but that'll be the necessity, at least for the next little while. So, obviously I have the front cage part off right now. I'm going to put that back on, and then it'll be building the cage for the back, and this is where the prop is going to be. So it's essentially going to be the width of the whole back in order to clear the prop. So it's going to be a big hoop. I'll get it, I'll take some measurements, get it bent out, and then start welding it together, as I've mentioned. These are the measurements for the back hoop. So it's 8 feet across. So 8 feet is the diameter of what the hoop is going to be. So times that times pi, it's 25 and a bit. And that's the full circumference of the hoop if it was a full circle. So taking half of it, it turns out to be 12.6. So 12.6 feet of circumference for the hemicircle, which is half the hoop. The stainless tube I have is 242 inches, so half of that is 121. If I take my 12.6 and split that basically in the half at 121, it ends up being 75 inches on each side. So what I'm going to do is mark the tube at 46 inches and 196. Everything in the middle gets bent into that half circle, and the rest will be either trimmed to length if needed, because they'll come straight down here. That'll be the extras, and that's where it'll get bolted to the boat. So anyway, I think I explained that more complicated it is, but basically it's going to be bending a hoop with a diameter of 8 feet. It only took 2 passes with the roller bender to make that arc. And I guess that makes sense. It's a pretty gentle curve. So that's the 8-foot radius. I have it just mocked in place right now. It's not attached at all. I'm going to build some stainless plates and bolt the plates to here. And then I'll calculate how high I need to have it all off. To do that, I'm going to mock up the prop. But so far that took literally 30 seconds. Okay, maybe a minute. The main hoop is basically put up in place. I added extra bolt holes or bolts to there, so that's nice and rigid now. It's definitely going to need support braces. I'll link it into this other cage with bolts, and then some extra support braces to the hull. I'm reminded how much I dislike welding outside, especially TIG welding in the wind. And it's kind of a nice day here today, but it's getting windy. So, and it's getting too windy to TIG weld. So I'll probably have to pause with this part, try to find an indoor task to do on the boat, and when the wind dies down, I'll get back to this part. So this is a pretty tight bend for a rolling bender. If I had a regular tubing bender, that would be better for this task, but this is what I got. So this is going to be the top support brace, and it's about 10 inches from the end, so this will link into the top. I've got a 6-inch span, so it's not truly a 6-inch radius because it's not completely uniform, but anyway, the bend occurs within a 6-inch length, and then this will connect the two. So anyway, that worked well enough. Basically, I'm just experimenting with how much to bend it and the lengths, and I'll refine that and then build a bunch of connecting links. I was planning on having the back of this boltable to the front, so it would be 2 pieces. And the whole point of that was so that I could remove it over the engine without having to remove the back of it. But I think it's probably more hassle than it's worth. To remove the back of this isn't that many bolts anyway, so I think I'll just make it all one piece. And if I have to, well, when I have to change the engine out or do anything major to the engine, I'll just take the whole cage assembly off all in one piece. So that'll be the plan. I'll just keep going with bending and notching, and I'll get this welded up. I've got the cage off the boat now. It came off really easily, so I'm happy I changed the plan and went with it all connected as one. There's only 12 bolts, they're all easily accessible, so it comes off easily. It's lightweight, it takes 2 people just because of the awkward size of it, but it's easy to get off. So that'll be good. It will be a bit trickier when I have the whole steering apparatus attached, but still, not too bad. What I'm going to do now is do all the finish welds, and then I have some 1/8 stainless rod that I'm going to put in to fill some gaps. This is a completed cage. So I added the 1/8 inch round, and basically in places where there was the highest danger of either the spinning prop or the spinning accessories on the engine or the hot things, so the exhaust basically. So I did try to leave out a fair amount of areas, and the reason for that is because every one of these wires will impede airflow at least a little bit. And with a prop, you want as much flow to it as possible. So everything is a balance. So it's balancing blocking off areas for safety with, incremental decreases in airflow. And with as it is right now, I don't think there'll be any significant difference in airflow, but potentially you could add so much that it would. I added another kind of just barrier down here, just so nothing gets underneath. But this is pretty much it for now. I'll get this mounted back into the boat. All this welding was pretty tedious. I really enjoyed TIG welding, but this took quite a while. It was several hours of really finicky welding to get all these bars in without burning through. Usually mostly around 30 amps for all that stuff. Anyway, I'm pretty happy with how it looks. We'll get it in the boat, and if I have any areas that, basically gaps that I feel need more metal, I do have some extra, so I'll just weld in some more while it's in the boat. So that's it. Cage is pretty much done. It's fully bolted in. It's actually really solid. I'm pretty happy with how rigid it is. I think for the most part it'll be pretty good protection. I might add a couple more wires across here just for the exhaust. And on this side as well, I might add a couple wires in this void here, maybe something here as well. So anyway, just a couple of wires to add. That'll be pretty quick and easy. Overall, done. So coming up next, I'll put the prop on, and that'll be interesting. I'll get it running with the prop. And then of course the other things is the rudders and the all the controls. They still will get added on to the back of the cage here. So the rudders of course will be back here, and all the support and the steering linkages. Thanks for watching.